Yes, this is not for use in an infomercial, but it is okay to be used generically on a website. Most people don't realize it, but the immune system is made up of many different systems. Your skin wards off big chunks of foreign bodies, dust and splinters and things like that. Then you have antibodies, which are antibodies against pollens and foreign chemicals and things in your sweat and your tears, your saliva, your digestive enzymes. Your immune system also includes your appendix and your thymus and your tonsils. Your immune system includes your stomach acid. Your immune system is your proteins from your liver. So it's a very complex thing. Your white blood cells are part of your immune system. And nutrition is required for all these systems to work properly. They don't work in a vacuum. They do require all the known essential nutrients, which include 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids, and then also the antioxidants which you can get in your food. These are measured by ORAC points. ORAC is the acronym, stands for oxygen radical absorption capacity. And ORAC points tell you how many free radicals are neutralized by the antioxidants in your blood and your sweat. And so this is kind of just a short version of what your immune system is. Well, toxic metals are toxic at certain levels and not toxic at other levels. In some cases, metals that are thought to be toxic are actually essential nutrients. Everything's looked at as a bell-shaped curve. If you don't get enough of them, you have a deficiency and get a disease. If you have the optimal amounts, everything works perfectly. If you have too much, you're poisoned. I mean, you can be poisoned by too much oxygen, too much water, too much vitamin A, too much anything. And so everything is in a bell-shaped curve. And those that have a very narrow peak, instead of having a nice flat bell, those that have a very narrow peak, almost a sharp point, those have a very delicate, very narrow range of safety. For instance, arsenic is an essential nutrient. We've known that since 1947, but you get too much, it'll kill you. You don't get enough, you get leukemia. And so arsenic is an essential nutrient. Cadmium is thought to be a toxic metal, but it fills in. If you're zinc deficient, you hope to God you have some cadmium because it drives all the zinc-dependent enzymes if you don't have zinc. And then selenium, for many years, is thought to be toxic until 1957 when it was proven to be an essential nutrient. And so one man's toxic thing is another man's essential nutrient. Well, subtle signs of an overload of toxic anything, including toxic metals, would be fatigue, sort of non-specific pain, discomfort, inefficient functioning of various systems. For instance, if you have too big a load of toxic metals, you could have an anemia because your bone marrow won't work right making red blood cells. Lead poisoning is a very common reason why kids would have anemia in school, because they might have lead poisoning because they're eating the lead chips off of the peeling paint in the school. Well, an immune system that doesn't work very well, one that might be called depressed, or one that is just, or suppressed, or it might be one that just isn't functioning very well, can be non-functioning because it doesn't have all the raw materials to work properly. It could be non-functioning or suppressed or distressed even because it has an overload of things that can be toxic to it. And certainly heavy metals in excess beyond their essential needs can put a damper on the immune system. Because if, for instance, if you're taking in too much lead, lead is okay at certain amounts. It's a required nutrient at certain amounts. You never hear the EPA saying we must live in a lead-free environment because a lead-free environment will kill you. You need small amounts in parts per billion for certain enzymes, including the enzymes required for RNA to replicate. You need lead, but if you get in a lead-free area, it's not going to happen. But if you get too much lead, then everything stops, because then the enzyme systems that make the DNA work stop. Well, they could have an accumulation or some storage of toxic metals in their body, but if they're in all outward appearances healthy, they don't have any clinical symptoms. If you do laboratory tests, you don't see anything wrong with any of their blood and urine fluids, then they can still have some small amounts of toxic substances in them, but it's not at a high enough level to cause what would be called clinical interference or clinical symptoms. Radiation is a terrible thing. And one of the recent findings that have come out, of course, is that one CAT scan, one mammogram has the amount of radiation of 500 chest x-rays. The old thing is that, oh, there's insignificant amounts of radiation in CAT scans and MRIs and mammograms is ridiculous. And for years, radiologists have been saying, well, that's all nonsense. There's no more radiation in a mammogram than there is in an ever-rated battery. Well, that's not true. Now they came out just months ago and said that one mammogram is equal to 500 chest x-rays. My Dead Doctors Don't Lie CD, 40 different companies use it. It's very generic. It doesn't even mention my company, but it has principles in it that I hope that all companies use, because a rising tide raises all ships. And if we all work together to protect our families and our churches and our neighborhoods and workmates and church mates, and we'll save America. But if we all don't work together, then we're going to have some difficulties here. And so we need to work harder together, but we're limited on what we can say about each other than kindly things. Bob and I know each other from the National Health Federation for many years, and I've always been very fond of the National Health Federation. That I go back to them in 1978. So it's a great thing that Bob contributes to the knowledge, to the general knowledge of the American public and general knowledge of the members of the National Health Federation, Health Freedom Expos, and he's a beloved member of the alternative health community.